And we are back into the desk to talk about Riddle versus Astralis. Are you okay?
Yeah, you know, I just found it really interesting how Astralis have actually unlocked cloning technology and have two Senkoks in that interview.
That is interesting. By the way, do you like cupcakes?
I do like cupcakes.
I'm going to buy you one because 0 points is kind of heavy on you. So just to make sure that you're happy at the end of the day, Riddle versus Astralis, at the end of the day, only one of these two teams will still be able to get the second spot. We talked a lot about Astralis, how they're playing the mid game, how they're actually going for the plays that they want to do for once now in Summer Split. But what about Riddle? To me, they're the team that can actually take down the big one, JDXL.
They are sat at 5-2 after having a whole week of not having their proper roster, but they had to role swap people, they had to play with substitutes. That to me is actually astounding. And to think that they took Bifrost so close in that first game of the split and thinking, oh my gosh, that was the one game they didn't get first blood in, but it still got crazy in that mid game. I remember like a Vladimir pop-off as well during that game. This team has incredible individual potential. I don't think I rated them highly enough coming into this split, but I'm quickly changing that opinion.
What about you?
I mean, I just have to kind of agree, right? Honestly, like on Monday's games, I thought for sure Riddle was not gonna play as well as they did. I've kind of been underrating them a bit, but now they're just really showing me that they can actually have such a strong roster. I think they kind of complement each other really well. Stefan, obviously just the jungler of the split so far, playing so well around his strong solo laners in Jax, Plank, and Vladdy. And feel like they're just 5 guys that has really good cohesion as well. Kevo kind of playing that weak side on the bot side as well, and they just really complement each other. It's really nice to see so far.
If we could look into this game and understand what is going to be the lane or even position we should be focusing in, because I do believe Taxer and Stefan are going to bring a lot into this game, no?
Yeah, so I like how you said, like, what lane are you watching? Let's talk about this lane. Luckily, it's the one I'd agree with too.
That's not your eyes. I was
just like, oh heck, which one would I choose? It has to be that jungle.
Yeah.
Right? I think that Taxa, even last split, was the playmaker that the team needed in the more dire moments. Didn't quite happen consistently enough. This split has been stepping up a lot more in that regard. And then, of course, yeah, you look at Stefan on the other side, probably has been the jungler of the split for many people's opinions. We'll have to see if that lasts out through the rest of it. I'm sure that Dan from JDXL will on word with some people on that. But I think those two are going to be such a big impact on these lanes.
But when you look into the jungle, it's a line, let's call it a line, that unlocks other lines. So affects other lines. In solo queue, it affects my line. But in your opinion, where do you believe they're going to be focusing, these two junglers?
I think once again, I mean, League, guys, it's been existing now for quite some time, and every single season, mid is just completely broken. I think it's just going to be so much about the mid-jungle synergy, honestly. And I think I think it's just going to be a kind of hard objective for Taxer today, though, because as you mentioned in the previous split as well, maybe hasn't been as dominant, and now they're kind of stepping up as a team, right? But I think today is all going to be about Taxer kind of containing Stefan rather than trying to snowball on his own, because Riddle has been so kind of dominant in the early game, while Astralis, they've been kind of taking it up a notch in the mid and later game stages.
Can you tell me the similarity between Twitch, Zeri, Senna, Lucian? How many of these are first band champions? Oh, and they're all AD carries. Oh, crazy.
Okay,
Mid lane's the problematic role, though. Don't worry, guys.
So you think bot lane is going to be problematic? Let's look into the champion select and see how these players are going to fare out. We have a lot of interesting picks and interesting bans, and I would say Wukong is a priority for both teams as we go into the first game of the day, Astralis versus Riddle.
Okay, so now we get to see what is going to be these first big priorities. Mentioned, without the jokes involved, AD carries have tended to be the first round bans because they tend to warp your team compositions. We've seen the mousetrap answer to Zeri, where you first take the Zeri and it's like, oh yeah, Yuumi, Twitch, that's a really good answer to it. You don't tend to be able to pick a lot of kill combos into that lane from the Zeri side of things, but got to put the nameplates on. Talked about a lot of AD carries, talked about many roles, didn't talk about top lane in this one. Jax, Gangplank, named on the other side by Jax Plank, they're pretty easy to take away.
Yeah, and just looking at this, right, with the name tags on rather, Riddle obviously has the Jax Plank this time around, and we have to remember as well that we are on red side right now for Riddle. It's going to be super important for, I think, if they want to kind of make a game plan to snowball the top lane, they for sure can just leave that counter pick for Jax Plank to last, right? And then it's up to Carlsen to kind of pick a tank or whatever, but I haven't really seen him play tanks, this guy.
So let me throw back to a game in, actually it was against Riddle last split, and it was against Kects in the top lane, not Jax Plant, this is the old roster, where Carlsen did have to play weak side. He played set into Renekton, got ganked a couple of times earlier, then went like 0-5. He just fell apart, couldn't show that skill set on the weak side of the top lane. When he didn't have those resources, things fell apart. I think that Carlsen's been great when you have given him resources, when he's gotten a good matchup. I think drafting towards a dominant topside matchup for both teams, therefore, becomes quite important if you look at the players and the skills that they've shown.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to imagine that, right? I completely agree with you. Now we see the bans finally coming in. We have so many OP picks, right? The Wukong, the Seri, obviously those are being picked out.
Another AD carry.
Senna. Okay, I mean, okay, man, I'm gonna admit, I think AD carry in this durability patch is looking kind of buzzing, but just the fact that mid lane is just the shortest lane.
For that?
It's just...
I would say half a point. Still behind.
Okay, you get a half one, but I'm just gonna stand by my point though. Mid obviously being broken, you have this players, Caps Faker. They're just too good, man. Mid lane.
Okay, broken. But just all the best players are in mid.
It's the same.
So speaking of mid lane champions and bot lane champions, mid lane champion where it used to be down towards that bot side, Ziggs was locked in there. Now Ziggs has been an answer into Senna in the past because Senna is actually at the point where they can get one shot by a good enough Ziggs combo, where you have a good enough high engaged target onto them. We used to see a lot of Ziggs Leona. Leona's kind of gone at this point. I actually wonder now, Riddle, you've locked in this long range artillery marksman, can be that one shot combo. What have you got to pair up with it though? Viego is not reaching the backline targets and you've got to get through a Tom Kench now.
Yeah, I mean, I just have to completely agree with you on that one, right? They kind of need some sort of engage. Obviously, when I play Ziggs, I just want my supporter to just lock the Nautilus. Obviously, that not being the best pick into Tom.
That helps.
They're also just going to decide to lock in the mid lane instantly, so we know it's going to be Ziggs bot lane. Just a good matchup, as you mentioned, from Ziggs, right? Now, I'm kind of looking at, like, Viego, Yone, you kind of still need some sort of engage on the side of Riddle.
Yone kind of is, right?
Yeah.
That's why I'd say it's because, like, Yone, if you press R on the targets, they're reaching the end of that line, they're reaching it, and it has good side lane matchup into Corki. You can trade your ult for Corki's package if you want to do that too. I think suddenly Vladdy has a lot of agency just before the fight starts, either on side lanes or catching someone over a wall to twin down with that double combo of that and the Ziggs bomb, CC everyone into it. That's the start of something good for Riddle. On the other side now, Astralis, even just the picks that they've locked in, need to be very careful about how they approach objectives, because if Vladdy flies over a wall, things don't look good for them.
Yeah. It's a volatile champion select, I would say, for Riddle. If they get the lead in the early game, it's going to be complicated for Astralis to come back into the late game. We talked about how they can do it, obviously.
If they fall behind, it's rough.
Versus Riddle, I don't know. It's going to be a tough one. As we're going to see Graves and Nautilus, where we were expecting high engaged supports being taken away by Astralis. What else do we have? Do you really fall back to the Leona?
I wonder if you have to. I wonder if you have to. You're looking at something like a Rakan, not awful as well. Rakan and Leona were the choice pairings with something like the Ziggs or even other artillery champions that you kind of put down there. Into the Tom Kench is still a little rough. I think you still have to kind of just bite the bullet and say, you got to pick something to combo with the Ziggs, though. If you're just relying on that Yone, it becomes so much less reliable, and that Ziggs carry role just doesn't do the job. Okay,
hear me out. You were on a play. Okay, obviously, we see already Riddle. They are still on red side. They're going to have the counter pick. They have Vlad on the Yone. They could just look to opt into just not picking H at all and actually put Nash onto something like a Bard. Legit could be good here. Senna, Tamken, just going to be Ziggs kind of farming on his own. And they're going to, remember, they're going to get counter pick on the last pick as well, probably for Jack's Plank. And this is kind of spells out to me that maybe you don't even need engage, just need something that is mobile and can roam around the map. Maybe
I was actually looking into the rel to get some sort of engaged, clustered everybody alongside with the Yone, with the Ziggs as well. Could be a massive wombo combo, but you still have to look into the top side. And just as you told us, playing weak side for Astralis sometimes actually is the bullet they need to use.
Good call, Arsham.
So the rel, of course, is in there. We've talked about a couple of the engaged champions.
I've been blessed by trouble, so yeah.
And now, obviously, Nash had an awesome rel game just the other day on Monday. I think that Nash was incredibly intelligent at how they unlocked themselves onto the map. They were resetting, applying themselves to different areas of the map to get those big engages. Now, if you can leave the Ziggs alone, you can start unlock them. Rel is still good as a roaming support, turning up to the right place at the right time. I think actually we've got a bit of both between what both of us were saying on that. Say, okay, you can get out of that lane, you can start twinning up with some of these skirmishing champions, but it does give that grouped up wombo for the bomb too.
Yeah, I mean, just honestly looking at this, I feel like really Riddle has done their homework. They set up the whole night probably and made this, because I mean, Stefan obviously on a comfort pick like the Viego, and it feels like so easy for Riddle to get some sort of a reset instantly going in the fights, right? Now Jacksman locking the Fiora into the Ornn as well. We're gonna see Carlsen on the tank. Oh, it was Hammer. My bad.
That's the other one.
Yeah.
That's the other one.
You have two. One is Ben. I mean, look into the other one, yeah.
And now, for those of you that were watching Astralis up in the LEC, they played the Ornn into the Jax, and poor Vizicachi up there got a little bit mauled in that matchup versus Irrelevant, but I'm looking at Jax flank here into that Ornn. Pretty much every side lane matchup you can throw at Jax is going to be pretty horrifying for Astralis. I think in the grouped up team fights, if you have a package, you have a Call of the Forge God, I don't see any world in which that Ziggs is staying safe. So I think if Astralis are very decisive about how they engage, grouped up fights go to them. If the fights become broken, Riddle get to play around side lanes, an individual moment of power, Riddle win. Groups versus an individual plays for me.
Okay, but if you have to do it, who's going to take it in the end?
I think it's going to be Riddle. I think they've shown that level of play on those individual moments. So for me, it fits their win condition, players on the right place.
M-Test.
I had Astralis in my prediction, but honestly, looking at the draft here, I think as well as Nightmare said, I think Riddle's going to take this one home. They're really comfortable at playing these 1-3-1s, and I think it's going to be a Riddle show today.
I mean, you just did a segment in the pre-show to talk about Astralis and how they always... There we go. We jump into Riddle as we jump into the Casa desk alongside with Initialize and Trouble for the first game of the day.
Thank you very much. We have some pre-flight checks to get on before this absolute banger of a journey we're going through today. These games are looking like some 5-star action. Our first one, obviously, Riddle Astralis, number 2 teams, tied at that rate, both at 5-2, both looking to secure second place. And with that race being pretty damn close, I know you have some thoughts you want to get out before we hit onto the Rift.
There's a bunch of questions going through everyone's head, right? Because we have been sort of pushing Riddle as the second best team in the league right underneath JDXL. Now, of course, they're tied with Bifrost and Astralis onto that second place. And now it's their chance to pull a little bit further away from them. Beating another team that they're tied with, like Astralis, will show that they are the strongest of the 3 that are tied for second place. And as for Astralis, I think after a very disappointing spring split, it makes a lot of sense to just see them sort of evolve into this new team that we were hoping to have as a second academy coming into the league.
Absolutely. And with that said, let's head on to the Rift to see how it all works out in game. Of course, you're right. Riddle look absolutely phenomenal, but Astralis on the other side, we're getting some beautiful T-tours around the various sites of Summoner's Rift here, courtesy of production, who definitely know what angles to be finding here for those beautiful looks at all the various in-game models and skins. For Astralis, this is a team who much improved from spring. I had to pick the right word there. Took me a second. Good start to the day. But even with that said, we've still yet to see them beat a team with their game score or higher. The 2 losses they have are to JDXL, of course, currently undefeated, and Bifrost, the other team tied at 5-2. If they lose to Riddle here as well, the teams they will have lost to are the teams above them in the standings, which is, I'm sure, a bit of a frustration for them when this is the other academy team. This is the team that really did not perform to the level we were expecting in spring. This is the team that would like to think, hell, we're in with a shot of EU Masters, and losing to those teams who are direct competitors for that kind of spot, at least at this point in the split, is not what they will want to see at this point here 4 weeks in.
I feel like a lot of the question for Astralis is this probably the meta? Because in spring, it was a little bit more fast-paced with all the volley bears, the tower dives, getting aggressive, getting ahead in the early game and snowballing this to a victory, fair enough. But I feel like this meta complements Astralis a little bit more, waiting for those late-game team fights, making sure that your AD carries are fed, they have the proper amount of items to scale into the late game. And I think right here, their composition speaks to that extent as well. Got the Ornn with the Trundle, with the Tamkens being your frontliners, and then your 2 main carries, which is mid and bot lane, Chrisbreak and Senkax, on very heavy scaling champions. Now, always the question that I ask when this happens with very scaling teams in the late game is, how much are you willing to lose to then start fighting? I think this is a question thrown over to Riddle, because they obviously have a much easier time, especially after level 6 with a huge bomb, with the Yone diving backline, the Viego reasons or whatnot, to start stacking these neutral objectives.
Completely right. I mean, if you can get Corki and Senna to 3 items, 140 stacks, plus Ornn items, you're looking golden. But on the other side, you've got Jax Blank on one of his signature champions. This is a guy who, I was just doing a little bit of stat checking before this game, because he has been utterly phenomenal, because he is currently the leader in CS per minute. He is the leader in the likes of like first blood percentage. He gets 60% of the first bloods that Riddle get, and Riddle are getting more first bloods than any other team in the league. He's second in things like the damage percentage. Unreal numbers coming out of this guy. He's putting on a lot of carry performance. He's been given a lot of resources, and he is paying back that investment with a lot of dividends. His Gangplank, his Jax, unsurprising considering the name.
I mean, I was about to say, if you are that daring that you will allow the Jax, and especially the Gangplank in this particular meta with so many mobile carries to go through, you're going to have to deal with the repercussions of your actions, right?
Right.
And a lot of teams have fallen victims to their choices of banning them away. And honestly, I feel like, if anything, between Jax and Gangplank, I would also probably just leave the Jax up because we saw it in the LEC. I think Irrelevant played it. He got super far ahead in the early game, but it's just much harder to capitalize on a lead on the Jax rather than the Gangplank, where you can have global pressure on the champion as well. So I think it's going to have to come down to Jaxplank's individual skill on one of his two main champions to make sure that he snowballs, mostly for me, on a side lane, especially when you have the Ziggs that can clear wave after wave after wave. You've got the Rel and the Viego right there, making sure that the Ziggs will not get dived. You can actually try for the 1-3-1 later on with Yon on one side and the Jax. My only problem for their late game, as we were saying, stack neutral objectives, you got the level 6, is that your top side of the map is very AD heavy and very AD auto-attack heavy as well. I feel like a rush in still caps right here from Taxa, Carlson, and Senkax might just do the trick for the early game.
I mean, just imagine once Frozen Heart and Randuin's come through completely there with you. It'll be an experience. Of course, Jax still very good in those 1v1 scenarios, and if he can continually find those side lane matchups into the Ornn, he'll still feel pretty good about that in the later stage of the game. It's just you're also into Ornn, Trundle, Corki, Senna, Tahm Kench. The mother of all 30-plus minute team fighting combos. And you can't see it right now, but Trouble's eyes went about 3 times as wide. With it was the silent scream going on there.
The Ornn, man. It's the assassin, marksman, mage.
Never change, never
everything.
change.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Ornn, for giving us such a great game in the top side of the map. And honestly, he's one of the most fun champions to watch from like the tanks that we have over the top side of the map, because he can literally 1v1 you no matter what champion you play.
I mean, I'll take this brief moment to go on a tangent about that, because I was actually having a conversation with Nymera earlier about I actually quite like the way that more recent tanks and tank reworks have gone through for a lot of League of Legends. I much prefer, for all that Ornn was incredibly broken for large periods of his release, the kind of playmaking patterns Ornn has, the more utility focus rather than just I take no damage and it's really irritating to actually play and fight me, is very early level 4 Dragon from Taxa coming on here, which is perhaps a little bit of a surprise, but taking the pressure option here to go and take that while it's free.
I don't know if Stefan wants to have a word with that, because she's level 5. Taxa is just level 4. He's avoided the root as well, and Riddle is just there to fight.
Okay, so maybe not quite as free as I was anticipating. We've got ourselves a full-on scope to the bot side. Fate Sealed actually out available, and this will be first blood to Vladdy's Yoni. And Astralis lose the dragon, lose first blood, and a lot of summoners to boot.
I mean, to reiterate, Riddle have a much better level 6 around the objectives in the early game. You've got the bombs coming in, you've got Nash with the engage onto the Rel, you've got the Viego together with the Yone that do a bunch of damage, especially to level 6, with the resets as well. So we mentioned how we were expecting Riddle to start snowballing the neutral objectives and have to force Astralis to fight them whether they like it or not. And I'm sorry, Astralis, but that's not your map to move into. Yes, your bot lane does have prior, but you do not have enough damage yet. And as we will see this replay as well, Taxa is 1 level down to Stefan, and also 40% HP onto that Trundle. He's very low HP, really struggling, which means that the bombs that are jumping in, Vladdy with a beautiful ultimate as well, to take away Taxa first, which means that you are safe to smite the dragon, and of course Stefan doesn't miss.
I really want to call it out as well. Vladdy's stuck on the wave to be the first player on the Rift to hit 6 before roaming down. And if we had the Fate Seal to get that first blood and make that dragon even more punishable. A little bit of a shout out here as well. Get that hashtag NLC at home out on Twitter, people. We want to see how you're watching this. We can call it out live and both praise and mock you probably in equal measure, because we're like that kind of people.
Yeah.
Throw yourself out for judgment. I'm kind. Trouble is not.
Baby.
You know, you gotta impress us both. I don't think there are prizes, not yet.
Okay, I've still yet to see someone with a blanket, popcorn, and a beverage.
There you go.
Okay, honestly,
there's your challenge.
I'm not going to blame them if I don't see a blanket right now, because in Berlin we've got like 30 degrees.
It's true. It might be a bit much. But maybe somewhere Denmark or Sweden or one of the other NLC, slightly more Nordic regions, which are generally a little more cold, even if it's, of course, summer. And I've not checked the temperatures there today because I didn't really think I'd need to today, actually. So, you know, who knows? Maybe if it's a colder place, you could do it.
So, back to this game. That is a huge wave building up towards the top side of the map. But you've got Ornn and you've got Trundle. It's just so difficult to dive with these two champions in the early game. But my question here is, Why is Stefan an entire level up and about 30 CS? Now,
How does he do it?
I don't know how he does it every time, but we have hit on Stefan and how important it is for Riddle, and especially playing the Viego. I feel like Stefan has one of the more aggressive early game Viegos we have seen, but aggressive or not.
Maybe a little over-aggressive. Astralis overextended the bot side river. Maybe it's Riddle's time in the top side with the Herald spawning, but the turnaround's actually pretty damn extreme. Now Vladdy hopping forward with the Fate Seal. Can't quite secure the ultimate onto Taxa, though, who manages to walk out and throw down a pillar. But it does leave Riddle in control of the Herald pit.
Hey, but that's so important. Tax is going to loop around, but he's still level 5. And everyone is level 6 and 7 and even 8 for Jaxplank. How does this Trundle walk in and not get completely demolished? You don't have an Ornn ultimate to start a fight.
I've got Devour, though. Kiba's got the level 6 on the support for this fight, which could be pretty critical. But in goes Jaxplank, trying to zone people off with the counter-strike. Herald scooping out Castle at the back end of it. Gets the knock-up onto the Trundle pillar. All the while, Nash on the other side may well be the sacrifice and is taken down by Carlson. Now the rest of Riddle must try and run away, extricate themselves. It's a fighting retreat, and they will use the sacrifice of Nash to get themselves out with the Herald in inventory.
We've been seeing this all weekend on the LEC as well. Teams are willing to take 5 versus 5 fights no matter what, because neutral objectives in the early game are so important. Building your early game leads, leading you into faster late game item spikes. And right here you can see Carlson doesn't have the ultimate to stop this. Jaxplank dives in just to zone them away just as the smite is about to go down together with Vladdy. And I feel right here, very wisely, Nash sacrifices himself so his team goes away. I feel like Stefan, even though we're praising that was a little bit of an overstep. You do not have to go in there, just run away with your team. He lost his flash for no reason, which could potentially be seen if being punished later on into this game. But nevertheless, Riddle and Stefan secure that Rift Herald. I wonder where it's gonna go mostly, because when you have a Ziggs in the game, usually you want to throw the Rift Herald onto that Ziggs lane. He has the satchel, execute the tower, rinse and repeat on the other side of the map.
Normally, of course, the idea is you get the plates down low enough to then execute with the Herald. With Ziggs, you don't really need to do that. You only need...
Ziggs.
Exactly, you just use Ziggs, exactly. One of the sometimes lesser utilized elements of that champion, but Trouble is entirely right. It's always good to see that and see whether Cavo does get the Herald put into his lane. Of course, we've talked about how Riddle do like to focus towards their top side, towards the likes of Jaxplank. Maybe that's a way to getting that very AD-heavy top side ahead of curve, as Senkux has got the package in inventory and trades pretty heavily onto Vladdy ahead of this dragon spawning here.
Yeah, so I love that we mentioned the dragon, because usually after the changes on the Corki has to pick and choose which fights he's gonna have packets on, because the package timer was extended so you cannot have it for every single objective. Now, of course, Astralis lost the first one due to the fight, the 4 versus 4 fight on the bot side of the map, but due to this one, Riddle are going to accept and respect the fact that this package is onto the Corki. You do not want to be giving away that 1,000 gold lead that you have so far. Just keep snowballing that lead, get your Yone into 2 to 3 items, get your Jax to 3 items, get the Viego into the late game, and then start fighting then. But now the problem is, I don't think that if Riddle just sit on their butt and wait for the 2 to 3 item power spikes, they win versus Astralis. I think Astralis' front to back is absolutely spectacular, especially with an ever-scaling Senna, with Corki scaling so hard AP towards the latter stages of the game and having so much poke as well, that you're gonna suffer if you don't somehow snowball. Saying that,
They've got tools to do it.
yeah, we see Viego, which is not the most aggressive jungler in the early game, but Stefan has always managed to make it work.
I'm looking down at the notes we made during this, like, Stefan, only active Viego in the league is it's a statement. And maybe that's a little extreme, but there's some truth to it, because Stefan is incredibly aggressive, incredibly efficient on the Viego. He'll summon down that Herald in mid lane and try to get some work done.
Look who they have gotten onto the mid lane, though.
There it is.
The Ziggs around. He's going to throw the satchel and pop it goes. That was beautifully done right there, because we mentioned how Riddle want to play a little bit more aggressive, stop Astralis from scaling. You take the mid lane tower instantly, which means that no one can overextend into the mid lane. You get to bleed your vision into the jungle much easier, because you get to shove that mid lane wave all the time. And now the ball is in Riddle's court to start making plays, probably stacking this round.
And it's almost like you're professional Trouble, because it plays back into that statement we said about, look, 3 scaling lanes. You've got a Corki, a Senna, and an Ornn, and it's a Senna Tahm Kench, a relatively defensive lane, with the exception the Abyssal Dive can do some stuff, a la Odeon Duel from last split.
I was about to say, unless you're
unless you're
but
in
it's
Duel.
not a defensive lane.
We miss you, Duel. Either way, taking down that mid lane tower, using the Ziggs to do it, and making Corki's life more difficult can help slow down that normally incredibly oppressive farm rate he can have.
Yeah, I completely agree with you here, and I feel like that's exactly what Riddle are doing, right? Especially since the wood went down, where the tower used to be. You want to keep track always, and look at what's happening right now. You see that instantly when the tower went down, look at the top quadrant of Tax's jungle. It has been warded out, mid lane, towards the left side, into the river. Look at the bot side of the map. One ward just went down right there by Nash, right before he backed. There's a control ward towards the bot side of the map. If you look at the line that Riddle have warded for themselves, they pretty much own more than half of the map, rivers included, which is so important. Again, you want to have their second Rift Tail because you have Ziggs.
We've done a little bit of hero budding for a lot of these players. We'll be talking about how Stefan, so aggressive on the Viego. We said Jaxbank on his signature eponymous champion again, or one of them. But on the other side, I think we all remember the kind of plays Nash was pulling off on the Rel on Monday. He was making FGG sweat a little bit for his crown as the best Rel player in the damn league, and he's back on it again today. And yes, Astralis have some incredible teamfight tools, but Riddle have got one or two themselves, and if Nash can make some things happen as Vladdy looking for an all in the bot side, I thought it was going to be a trade. Instead gets a stopwatch, not even in a big fight, before a potential tower dive now, as over the wall came Stefan as Nash is caught on the other side of the pillar in a very weird series of animations.
And now there's 4 members of Riddle down the bot side of the map. What do? You shove in that wave, you get it a little bit lower, Kevo is around onto the Ziggs, throw in the shuttle, take that off of the map as well. It's kind of like a rinse and repeat situation, but because they haven't accounted for Senkax in the mid lane with Corki, Perma shoving in the wave, somebody has to go back and reply. So yes, Kiba loses his stopwatch, which by the way is going to be huge for the next fight. Both teams are sitting on 1-1 dragons, and they definitely want to start snowballing that by stacking them up. And in 1 minute, dragons up.
Oh, tried to read the Duke. Instead, Jaxban's getting to walk away, but Suncox is here, and the knocker comes through anyway. Counter-strike to get rid of a lot of that Corki damage, and there just isn't enough that bombing run will be able to get done.
Yeah, but remember what happened last time Astralis used that own horn and they didn't get anything with it? Riddle walked away with a Rift Herald.
You might be right, and that's exactly what they're here doing again. Well, it turns out history does repeat itself, though. I wasn't expecting it to happen within 5 minutes. That feels a little rapid. Got something for me, Trouble?
Yeah, that is even more important right now because you can drop the Rift Herald in the lane. If you want to, you can even drop it in the mid lane and threaten for a tier 2 tower.
So much money in that.
And in 30 seconds, Infernal Dragon's coming up. You already have one if you're Riddle, so you definitely want to keep this rolling. Jaxbank will most likely not be joining for this particular one as he's half HP. He doesn't have the teleport and he's focused on getting that tower down. But I think if he does take it here, he has time to go back, reset, and possibly run it towards the bottom side of the map.
Quick clarification to production. Of course, Riddle got the first dragon, and if that first dragon was an Infernal Drake, it can't be an Infernal Soul. So I feel that Infernal Drake timer in the top left, looking at the Rift as well, can't be
a little bit sussy?
Yeah, it feels a bit sussy. It's Hex Rift, so that's got to be a Hex Soul coming up.
Oh, now it's his mountain.
There we go. So it's something. So we'll figure it out. Just throwing that one out there. I was getting very confused. Like, what is happening? Why is this happening? There's not enough fire on this Rift. There's fire in game, but not quite that. And Stefan with this Herald in inventory and the Head Dragon spawn. It's time.
I'm just gonna say, with the speed that Senkax is driving his little helicopter right now, there might or might not be a package.
There it is. Good call, Trouble, especially with this fight becoming a potentially dangerous one. Fate sealed, but fate averted right now for Taxa, but Devour is taken in trade. Less safety for the side of Astralis.
But these are your 2 huge ultimates to reach the backline. The Ziggs all together with the Yone ult. What do you have left to reach that backline? Because the Orn Horn is still up and available, and Astralis can reach yours.
And the range discrepancy is pretty big at this point. Corki Senna versus a Jax and a Yone. Yes, you've got a Ziggs, but it's a 2v1. And there's a Forge God being called, dialing 999 instead, because someone needs to call an ambulance. But maybe not for Stefan, but not long enough either. He can't turn it around. Vladdy falls as well. And we were worried the moment those ultis didn't land. Astralis punish.
Oh, it all goes so south so quickly. The Herald being dropped on the bottom of the map, killed. The Dragon being taken away. 2 kills going to the side of Astralis. One of them onto the Corki as well, which you definitely don't want kills on. And I felt like Vladdy and Kevo being super fast on the trigger right there when Astralis haven't even walked into this river that belonged to Riddle was the nail in the coffin for this particular fight. We said that the tools to reach the backline, to zone away the Corki and the Senna had already been used by Riddle. And when you do have packets onto Senkax, it's just so difficult to fight these fights. Riddle very cleverly avoided the previous Dragon when Senkax had his package again. This one they wanted to fight, they waste their ultimates, Castle reaches the backline, they kill Stefan first, which means it's a free smite for Astralis.
And this is a bit of a return to form, honestly, for Senkax, who fell away from his halcyon glory days of the LEC, where he was on Splice with the likes of Wonder, Kobe, a few of these other still really huge names in the European scene, and then kind of never really managed to keep the level that he was hoping for. And Spring as well, while he was then, of course, named Cress, back to that original name now in Senkax, has been performing significantly more consistently.
All about the name. I don't know if you remember in the LEC, Caps didn't capitalize the C anymore. He capitalized the P. And we asked him, and he's like, I just felt like I didn't deserve the capitalized C, you know? Maybe it's the
confidence
same
thing.
thing with Senkax.
And Jaxplank, though, in a 2v1, currently winning that one out pretty damn well. The Subjugate, that's what it was, came down, and that was about it. But 2v1, Jaxplank survives and forces out an ultimate or two.
I mean, Jaxplank does burn his own flash.
True.
It's really bad for him. How are you going to reach the Senna Corki later on in the fight if you don't have flash? They do lose a tower right here. And unless Jaxplank TP's back in...
Everyone's here. Carlson might come around. That's a decent route, though, for Grisberg with the last embrace for Taxa. And Senkax now trying to play this one up best they can. Nash gets the Magnet Storm into the Ziggs. Ultimate 1-for-1 right now as Carlson turns up, and maybe Riddle have overextended trying to punish Astralis. Taxa so down low, though, will secure a double kill for Stefan's Viego. Here comes Vladdy. Fate Seal to try and get onto Grisberg. Heal, ignite, the Devour keeps the center alive.
Holy, that was a huge shield coming in from Kiba to keep Grisberg alive. And again, there was so much expended from the side of Riddle, but at this time, they get so much back in return. They get their bot lane tower, they get to have the push, they're pushing top, they're pushing mid, they're pushing bot at the same time. But as you can see on the map, there is no concrete neutral objective for them to take. The Dragon is still not yet up and available. And again, that was a very nice, quick play. Jaxplank trades everything right there. We mentioned how he traded his flash, but then that TP coming back down. Astralis overextending right there. Only level 10 onto Taxer as well. Level 11 would have been huge for his Subjugate, but they get caught by Nash on this rail ult. Taxer dies. Their mid lane dies. Grisberg gets away with a sliver of health. And honestly, Riddle, yes, they gain another tower on the map, but they expend teleports, they expend the flashes for this, and there will be the third dragon coming up on the map right there, and it will spell soul point for the set of Astralis. Flashes will not yet be up.
No, they will not. Of course, the last Dragon fight went very heavily in Astralis' favor after some of those critical ults did miss beforehand. But as you can see, those side lane skirmishes, feeling like Riddle have some pretty good options there. I just have to ask, Georgia, with that Dragon in a minute and a half, is it something you want to see Riddle actually contest?
Looking at the items right now, yes, because I'm seeing 1, 2, 3 tanks on the set of Astralis, and this Senna has Umbral Blade. It's not the Kraken Slayer or yet Senna, which means she will not be shredding through health bars that easily yet. Or it could be an Eclipse even, right? But you are missing your mythic item. So far, it's pretty much a vision bot. Grisberg is a vision bot. You get the Umbral Glaive. You get to clear a lot of this vision that Riddle have bled through their opponent's jungle. But that's about it. Senna does not do damage yet. Just with the Umbral Glaive on her, this Corki has 2 items, but it's not going to be there yet where it hurts that much to put the poke down. And I'm just worried that if Vladdy and Kev would not miss ultimates on this one, somebody could just pop.
Absolutely. 40 seconds or so until this Dragon means set up right now in Riddle's favor. They've taken the opportunity, particularly with that mid lane turret down, to try and walk in, get that ward line you mentioned earlier, and control beyond the river. Beautiful production, thank you so much, and that highlights it super, super well. Of course, with the Hex Gates, some of those vision lines can be a little bit thwarted, so I'll be interested to see whether that comes into play.
As you can see, there is a little bit of a way you can make it. Right now, both teams are contesting for that mid wave. It is so important when you want to move into the river, because once you push that mid wave, you can enter the river through 3 different waves.
Vladdy forces the package before the fight. Takes a big chunk of HP, though, because he did end up on the red carpet briefly. Turns out being a VIP comes with some health risks. Kevo on the other side, trying to find some good angle for poke, but it's not really at a position where he's going to be stinging as hard as he might like. All the while, Stefan and Nash down towards the bottom side of the river as Vladdy left to control the mid wave. Wait. Knock up in on Nash, who will get knocked down. Jack's back in the back end of it all, gets Chrisberg down to about 10% HP as the Call of Portugal comes back through. Stefan trying to hop around, but he was not able to secure a kill or a reset. Kevo trying to find an angle as a Chrisberg's railgun brings down the Viego, and it's another dragon fight that Astralis secure.
And it's all Astralis' favor. We said Riddle need to press the early game advantage because the front to back for Astralis is insane in the late game. Ever scaling AD carry in Senna, ever scaling AP carry in Corki, and 3 Giga beefy champions in front of them. Look at that. Astralis are just using their health bars to just brute force their ways into the river. And Riddle cannot do nothing. They're spread around. Kevo is stuck on a choke point. Vladdy cannot reach deep enough because he doesn't have his ultimate. Jaxman goes in, but then he has to run out because he gets hit by Ornhorn. And then Stefan goes in and instantly gets blown up. So again, we're seeing that Riddle are really struggling with these fights. I think they need to use the fact that they have these Jax on a side lane. There is no Frozen Heart yet, and I'm thinking that the second this Frozen Heart actually gets built, and I'm looking at Tax's inventory, I think this is what he's going on for his item. It's going to be really dire for Riddle just diving in there because your means of engage died first. That was Nash, and then he was completely scattered. Vladdy couldn't reach the backline. Remember, he had no ultimate for this fight. And honestly, this is where Astralis start ramping up. Eclipse almost completed for Chrisberg. You've got almost 3 items onto your Corki together with a stopwatch. Right now, you can perma-push a lane and just maybe even threaten the Baron.
At least with a Rel and a Viego there to shield the Ziggs, you've got fairly decent wave clear in the mid lane, and you've got 2 items, Blade of the Ruin King plus Mythic for both the Yone and the Jax. Your side lane options are okay for Riddle, but you've got 3.5 minutes until a soul fight happens. And with that timing spare, I think it's time to check in with that hashtag NLC at home. I think CJ of Riddle, give a social clash win typed out on a screen as sort of subliminal messaging in inverted commas is perhaps a little on the nose.
Manifesting.
Exactly, manifesting.
He says, put out your dreams out in the universe, right? And it's gonna come back to you.
We will. No, who cares about winning the actual games?
Yeah.
The social clash is where the real challenge is at.
This is where you get all the big points, right? Because I think Astralis are slowly but surely losing points from this game. They're only 1,000 gold in the lead. And honestly, against Senna Corki, 1,000 gold in the lead is not going to bail you out when Astralis have the better team fight.
Well, if the rest of you want to manifest some tweets with that hashtag on there, do throw them up on Twitter. Again, that hashtag is hashtag NLC at home. We'd love to see how you are all viewing the game. But we've got 2.5 minutes until another Dragon. We've got a Baron live, and I think it might be a little bold to go for it at this point, but it's there.
Astralis gonna wait forever to win the game. This is what we've learned so far, and honestly, having Senna Corki, I would wait forever too. I wouldn't mind going full late game.
True enough.
Taxa has been falling behind the levels, but right now it really does not matter because he has caught up level 12 to level 12. He has his second level up on his subjugate, which is going to be huge for him. So having this triple tank artillery with the artillery behind of the Senna Corki, this is going to be so obnoxious to try and push out of a river. If you're Riddle, I think what they really need to do here is probably use Vladdy and Nash to make a pick on a key carry like Senkax or like Chrisberg, and then create this into a 4 versus 5. I think this is your ideal scenario right here, because Jack split pushing is not going to give you mats. Ornn is matching you 1-for-1. Vladdy cannot split push, doesn't have the teleport to join the fight.
I mean, I'll also call it out. Senkax is pretty much a critical mass here. He's got an upgraded Ludens, that's an Eye of Ludens there. He's got the Muramana transformation. He's half an item away from getting a Ravenous Hydra. He's got a stopwatch. See the gold discrepancy there as well. Of course, Vladdy's been doing okay, but that is the 3 items plus stopwatch. That Corki is online, underline it a few times, add a package in, and you can kiss your health bars goodbye.
Yeah, and if you look even on the support matter, because Kiba is the one that is farming right now, this Tamkench is much stronger than any traditional support Tamkench, right? He's got 2 items right there, the Randuins, the Frostfire, to be able to keep Salmon on point. The thing that I'm looking at the most, though, is Taxa and the Frozen Heart.
Literally the moment you said it.
I was like, when is he going to purchase that? And I was trying to look where he is on the
You
map,
literally looked out, it's perfect timing.
Yeah.
Quick question here, a pop question for you. Do you know what the Ornn upgrade for Eclipse is called?
Absolutely not.
Syzygy! There you go, failed the pop quiz.
What?
Syzygy. So what it's like a mega eclipse where you have like multiple planets and things in line. It's like a super eclipse.
Wow.
So, see, upgraded eclipse goes to
I'd
super
love to
eclipse.
say I'm mind blown, but
You're just disappointed in me. Like, come on, that was good. Oh, my
I'm
God.
disappointed in the name, not you. Anyway, so
I kind of
again,
like it, but maybe
we're
that's just
playing,
me.
We're playing the ping pong with the mid lane wave because yet again another dragon is coming up.
Oh, yes.
In 10 seconds. And
Oh,
it's
yes.
The Hextech Soul for Astralis is gonna make this poke from Corki, this poke from Senna that much more obnoxious to deal with. If you're Riddle, Jaxplank is going to be a nuisance on the side lane, but I don't think Astralis should be phased by this at all. Just walk into the river, use your health bars, you've got the package into Senkax, and just secure soul for yourself. Jaxplank is gonna TP. I think it's too late.
It's too late. That is already down. There's no way Stefan can get there. The soul's secured. It's all there and done. The call of the full shot now coming through. Stefan so down low. Has to flash one. Just burns down. Followed up by the Rogue. Vladdy finds a decent option, though, with the Fate Sealed Nash going golden. But I don't know where they got the damage. Look at the amount of damage the Hex Soul is doing. Lightning is flying everywhere. And Jaxplank will try his damnedest to get something back. But despite all the multi-man ultimates, all the multi-man stuns, it's still a 3-for-1 in Astralis' favor.
And that's what you get when you've drafted an insane late game draft right here. You just walk into the river, you throw your HP bars, the face check, you take complete control. And by the time Astralis were able to pull the trigger, wanted to pull the trigger, that Hextech Soul was gone, which helped tremendously in this fight as well. What did Astralis lose for it? They lost a pesky top lane tier,
Sure.
which they didn't care about at all right now. Soul, Hextech Soul means so much to them because one poke from Senna, one poke from
Stefan.
Focus is gonna take people down. Stefan literally just walks on the red carpet from the package and just melts just to the package damage right there. And yes, Vladdy goes straight in, but he dives to 3 tanks. Look who he tagged. Taxa, Carlsen, and Kiba. These are the 3 tanks that were into this Yone ultimate. And yes, so Crispa dies, but you have another carry. You've got Senkax right there. And we mentioned at the very beginning, oh my god, I'm just gonna stop right here because Astralis cannot be stopped.
It might be time to flip at Baron, though. They've got Soul, but I don't know whether they want to actually continue fighting for this Hextech gate behind. What can Jaxplank find as Astralis pull away from the Baron? And Jaxplank will hop over the wall, as only Jax can do with that leap strike plus a little ward there, and now try and shove in on this tier 2 in mid lane and take that as a little bit of the prize for the Baron being started. Continue to hop away and being as slippery as he can.
Okay, so that was the best of the worst right there. They do not lose the Baron. They stop Astralis from taking it. On the drive-by, Jaxplank also takes that mid lane tier 2, which is also important. And Astralis, unfortunately, because of the composition, because they have 3 melees and they can't approach the tower very close because of Ziggs, they need that Baron to start sieging mid lane towers, right? All of them are still up and available. And right now, Jaxplank, they've seen him on the bottom side of the map. There is a teleport. He literally has to run it.
Oh, Astralis, don't throw at objectives.
Oh, he's still here.
I've seen so many dicey Barons over the last few weeks in pro play. Vladdy's going in over the wall with the Fate Seal. No, that was, of course, that was a Soul and Baron. Takes so much of his damage. Down to 3,000 HP. Stefan is there with ultimate. No flash, though. Kevo trying to poke out as much as he can. Jaxplank is in the mid lane, trying to keep that wave there. It is going to be a 50-50. In they go. Trying to get so much damage. Stefan gets Taxa. He gets the Baron. And Astralis just threw it.
Okay. 3 members of Astralis still alive, 4 members of Astralis still alive. Riddle managed to steal the Baron. I felt like this looked like very old Astralis, Spring Split Astralis to me, where the call is completely split among what they want to do. Taxa said, I want to keep hitting the Baron. I want to take the 50-50. Guess what, Initialize? There is no 50-50 if you're dead!
It turns out McDonald's have opened a new branch right here in the Baron Pit, and Astralis were the first damn customers. They completely flip it, and then look, Dax is here at half HP. He thinks he's okay.
And I feel like the fact that Vladdy dives into the backline saves the ultimate for that reason, allowing himself to get into the beat, get the Baron low enough, kill Taxa in the process, and allow Stefan a very easy smite steal right there. Was huge for them. We mentioned how Astralis really need that Baron to start sieging towers, because Ziggs makes it really difficult since he wave clears so fast. Now, The problem is, someone has to stop Jaxplank on a side lane. Now you're permanently shoving in waves if you're Riddle, which means that your towers are never under danger, which means that Astralis' gameplay has been extended that much more. I don't necessarily think that it favors Riddle so much to steal away the Baron. It takes away from Astralis because it's what they need to end your game.
Yeah, and what Riddle really want to do is get as much out of this as they can. Vladdy now at 3 items, shreds even the tank of Ornn, and that is a win condition. You managed to get to the point now where Jax and Yone have got themselves some items. My days! Leandri's burn plus the Ziggs ultimate doing a lot to burn out Carlsen.
That was mostly to stop Carlsen from going back so they can allow Jaxman with an entire Baroned up minion wave to take tower, but they might take his life instead.
Counter-strike plus Ignite now burned. Abyssal Dive will be popped to stage hopping over to Chrisberg. Gets the heal and the Devour out. Jaxman needs to try and work his way away here. He's got a stopwatch, healing up pretty well. It's a 1v3. Use the stopwatch, has now got a track repel available to him. And he makes them pay for trying to gank him.
That was a 1 versus 3 where Chrisberg lost flash, heal, ultimate, Kiba lost ultimate and Ignite, and Jaxman gets out alive.
You know when we said Astralis scaled really well, and they do? I'm now remembering that things like Jax and Yone in side lanes could do this kind of thing occasionally.
They scaled pretty well too.
It's all right.
They're all right.
I probably need to bring my pitch of my voice down a little bit.
The thing is, if you leave Jax and Yone all alone to 1 versus 2 in a side lane, it is very doable. You've got the lifesteal, you've got things like the Counter-Strike, you've got the things like Jaxman's ultimate, and Vladdy rocking the Ignite as well. It gives you a lot of brawling 1 versus 2 potential, especially when you're at 3 items, Jax or Yone. The problem is when Astralis group up as a 5-man core unit, it is so difficult to break the front line to reach Senna and Corki with the composition that Riddle do have. Saying that, all flashes are up and available for the side of Riddle, which makes it that much easier for Nash to potentially get an ultimate into the backline, for Vladdy to flash into the backline and get a huge ultimate.
Package, 4 items on Senkux, and Elder Dragon spawning. Riddle have looked great when objectives haven't been the case outside of the Baron. What can you do about the Jax? You're completely right, though. Trouble. Elder Dragon being started. Vladdy can look to try and make this a contest. Stefan, ultimate flash. This will be another flip. McDonald's opening up another restaurant onto Senkux. Vladdy goes, forces a flash, and the package is already down. Tax it down to 20% HP if that. Look at the flash available for Stefan. This will still be a contest. Look at Nash. Look at Kevo. Nash is gone. Never mind that. I was looking a little bit too hard. It turns out it's Kevo having to flash around Stefan with the Harrow Bath. Down 2,000 HP. It's another flip. It's a spell of Bergen's in the morning, people. It's secured by Stefan. Jaxplank is going to continue to be a nightmare on the other side of the map as Vladdy going to try and play this one out in a 1 versus 3. Doesn't have the damage, though, and will fall. Kevo might be a sacrifice as well, but Carlsen nearly at execute threshold. Needs to be afraid. Taxa, flash, jump, will survive and heals his way through. 4 for Jax alone. He's in a 1 versus 4. Can he get the kill? Gets 1. Try to reset. Gets 2, but falls to the GA. What can Kiba and Senkux do to stop this man from destroying them all? Zonya's Hourglass will do his best. Tongue Lash, auto attack follow-up from Senkux means that Riddle finally fall. Elder be damned.
Holy, what just went down? Because while everyone was trying to fight for that Elder Dragon, Jaxplank's like, I do not give an ish. I'm just gonna take the entire game. We saw Senkux having to TP back to stop the Jax from taking the entire base. And yet again, as you can see, Taxa gets heavily tagged by Kevo onto these Ziggs. Yes, they have prioritized armor, but at this point, Kevo with 3 to 4 items is tearing through those HP bars with all that AP stacked onto the Ziggs. Taxa cannot approach the Elder Dragon at all, and Vladdy together with Stefan are waiting on the sidelines, trying to steal that dragon away yet again, which Stefan is actually going to do. It blows my mind every single time. Meanwhile, Jaxplank is trying to end the game. Senkux has gone back into the base, forces the Jax away, and you see, again, even with Elder Dragon, when Astralis is bunched up as a unit, they can take onto Riddle when they scattered like this. So they're gonna kill Kevo here, which means another Elder buff is off, and then Jaxplank is diving in for his montage moment, right? He has the Elder Dragon, he's like, I'm just gonna kill them all 4 of them. Unfortunately, he kills one of them, He kills the On. Sorry, I think he killed Crispec as well, if I'm not wrong.
He does. He gets 2.
He gets 2. So he dived in for his 1 versus 5 Montage moment, kills 2, but very importantly, his Guardian Angel went down.
It did, and that could be problematic, but what it also means is that Flip, 2 in a row now, have gone Riddle's way, and it stops Astralis from utilizing the strength of their composition to try and make things happen.
I'm seeing 2 Anathemas chains, one on Taxa and one on Carson. If a production is kind enough to help us see where it is, never mind.
Might be too late. Kevo gets over the wall into a dawning shadow that will put Kevo into the dirt. Nash crashes down across the red buff wall. And your AD carry, or in this case, your AP carry, is down for the count as the Barons respawn.
Stefan is alive, initializing. He's already stolen 2 objectives from you. He's stolen the Elder Dragon. He's stolen the previous Baron. What to do? Astralis have to commit onto this one. They might have to try and take the 50-50. They're trying to figure out where Stefan is coming from. Stefan is not a threat for them right now. He's going to take his hands up. He's not going to try to steal this Baron. And Astralis finally get the objective that they longed for so long, to try and break that mid lane.
I don't even know what to think about who's winning this game anymore, because I'm looking at Hexol plus Motherable Teamfight up to one side, and I'm looking at the other and going, ah yes, late game, Yone Jackson side lanes.
Riddle lost with Elder Dragon.
Yeah,
as well.
and it turns out Astralis has still got some flaws around objective setups, perhaps. Though in fairness, that one was significantly cleaner. Full item Corki, by the by, for Senkux. That's just something else to keep track of.
Also, something else to keep a track of.
Yes.
Flame Horizon.
Oh, yes.
On the top lane.
Of course it is.
Okay, I don't blame somebody playing on and getting Flame Horizon.
It
Honestly,
happens.
it's just a fun fact.
Yeah, exactly. It happens, but Fire and Fury have certainly been brought to the Rift in multiple varieties this game. You know, like packages and now Flame Horizons. You see, there's lots of references there if you care to find them.
Now that we get a chance.
Yes.
Chill. Production, can we please find the 2 members that have been anathemas chained by Taxa and Carson? Because that could be so huge to know. You have 4 carries, the Jax, the Viego. Oh, one on the Ziggs. I saw there was 1 on the Ziggs. Okay.
Yep.
So that makes a lot of sense, especially since you're itemizing a lot towards AD damage. It's really cool to take the Anathema Chains and pop it onto the only AP carry that there is.
Let's see who else has it. Is there anybody else?
Is this double Anathema Chains?
It does say 2 on there.
Is it? Okay, it makes so much sense. They have both itemized full armor. The only one that's still in any other type of damage is the Ziggs. Put double Anathema's chains on him.
Just chain him even more.
Yeah,
that's it. It's double jail for you.
Yodel, man, please.
Yeah. I will be interested to see how efficient that is, but of course, it does mean that even if one of them dies, it will be somebody who can do that. Of course, we have seen at this point that Vladdy and Jaxplank are more than capable of dealing damage to their opposing numbers one option, but Stefan, once again, finds himself on the receiving end of a pretty nasty chunk there. More and death stance regardless.
Right, so again, you see how even Astralis with the Baron buff, it is so impossible to try and breach these mid lane towers. This game is not even about Baron buff anymore. It's not even about macro. I feel like this game is going to come down to the next Elder Dragon. Whoever wins this fight will have big enough death timers on their opponents to try and shove in through a lane and completely end this. Astralis, as you can see, they're trying to shove in the mid lane wave with Taxa onto the Trundle. They're shoving in that bot lane wave as well. At some point, you know, Riddle are going to have to reply. They're going to lose that bot lane tower right now. And if they want to, they've got a wave mid lane from Taxa as well onto this Trundle to create some pressure, bleed their vision onto the bot side quadrant of Stefan's jungle, and then try to go for that Elder Dragon.
Picking up the package, and of course, now that the Baron is pretty much wearing off, Elder Dragon spawns just afterwards. Senkux and Carlson with the 2 to back alongside Kiba, but they all have teleports, and Kiba's pretty quick on the Hex Gates to get out of the rest again.
Eyes are on Jaxplank right here, because he will not stop being a nuisance on a side lane. On a side lane that has an inhibitor, and if you open this, there's only 1 Nexus tower remaining. Once this Nexus tower goes down, which Jaxplank can probably tank and take it down without minions, then your Nexus is completely exposed. And yeah, as you can see right there, Jackson's been a nuisance.
Carlson's there as well.
I've brought 2.
It's a 2v4. Well, it's a 2v1 rather. The package is being used now. This makes it a 4v3 in the river around the Elder Dragon. He gets the Corki. What? Even with the Zhonya's GA is popped, but that's still a lot of HP to work with. He mistimes it. He mistimes the shove. That means the Crown Strike can come through and allow Jaxplank to get back onto the inhibitor. Teleport's coming through. They don't want to fight for the Elder. They want to play for the end game. Kevo's here as well. That means Ziggs with the satchel can make this one come down. Chrisberg and Kiba have turned up to try and help defend. Hex Soul doing the work it can. Jax Plug taken out by a railgun. Kevo has to flash away, and it's now disaster for Riddle. All the while, though, on the picture-in-picture, Staffan likely to secure the Elder Dragon.
Okay, Winnie, every time the Elder Dragon comes up, it is an absolute fiesta on the map. Riddle don't know if they want to fight, if they want to go for the Elder Dragon, if they want to end through a side lane. Meanwhile, Chrisberg and Kiba are taking the walk of shame home from the Elder Dragon pit all the way to their base to try and stop the siege. And I think Initialize, we're in for at least another 5 minutes, because this is most likely going to be Baron very soon. Riddle cannot necessarily sit too easily because there is a Corki and there is a Senna and there are 3 tanks. So even though, yes, you are scaled up, there are 3 tanks on the side of Astralis. There are 3 sides pushed with waves from the side of Astralis. So this Elder Dragon buff, I don't think is the last one we're going to see today.
Production, I need to ask, what is the longest game in the NLC so far this year?
We had one from Bifrost that went 50 minutes, right?
Something like that. But we are currently at 43.5 minutes into this game.
-1.
-1. So we've got ourselves at least a few to play with, and Trouble's called out at least another Elder Dragon in her mind. This could go not just a distance, but marathon distance at this point, as Jax Plank might be making me eat my words. Gonna try and turn this one back to Can. Chrisberg goes down to the GA. More popped as well. Gonna try and hop this one through. The Valkyrie will burn out a lot they can, but the counter-strike's just not enough, and they do get the Jax.
Yeah, they do get the Jax. 60 seconds death timers right now, and Baron is coming up just under that. Stefan pushing the top side of the map, but yet again, you see, they're trying to fight the Jax. You gave away your GA just to kill a Jax before that Baron even comes
There's nothing to take
up.
on the map. You've killed the Jax, congratulations. There's nothing to take afterwards. Your waves aren't in a position really to do all that much. You've got 30 seconds or so, maybe they can translate that into vision control or something, maybe.
Right now, I don't even think that vision control is in the cards. I think what's happening right here is these both teams are trying to find the most optimal way to fight each other. And for Riddle, they definitely want to make a pick or force maybe a package or something on the side to try and get one of the members of Astralis away from the fight. For Astralis, they want to group up as 5. They don't want to have the nuisance of Jax Plank onto a side lane. That's why they killed him off, making sure that it takes him a while to get back on the map, start building the waves, and then start pushing the side lane.
Slight note, Jax Plank has sold that broken GA for the Hull Breaker.
That lane,
so he's committed to that split push for now while the GA's on cooldown. Worth noting as well, longest game so far in the NLC this year was 54 minutes. 9 to go here in this one if we're going to go anywhere towards it. Stefan in position with Flash and Ultimate to make this one another flip. Senkuk's very low. He goes down to the backside. Fate sealed afterwards. Now what can happen afterwards, though, is the question we must ask as Stefan secures the Corki. Hops away, but it's burning down. Kiba trying to get that one. GA pop, but Baron is secured by Vladdy. Now Astralis must back away. Surely they can't fight this anymore. Surely that's it. 1 dead in trade for the Baron.
But the Astralis are chasing away Stefan. Stefan is laughing at them, looking over his shoulder, while the rest of Riddle are killing the Baron once again. I felt like every single big objective that Astralis have started, it has been taken away right before they were able to take a bite out of it. And Riddle now have 2 lanes pushing. They've got Jaxman with a ginormous wave on the side. They've got 2 waves pushing in the mid lane and an entire 5-man team.
This game has been so finely balanced. Both teams at 5-2. Both teams tied for second. Both teams here looking to ensure that they will be the ones to come out victorious. And Riddle right now are looking like the balance is finally tipping in their favor. But Astralis will not go quietly into the night. They get a knock-up. They try to hold on long as they can. 3 seconds on Senkux. 3 seconds on the Corki. Nash taken so down low. Jack Flag devoured. Will be thrown onto the turret. No, it's not going to end. It's going to keep going.
Oh my god, and that Nexus Tower still stays up. Nash survives. I don't know how. Daxter just did not auto-attack him again. Nash gets away from with his life. Jaxman dies underneath that Nexus Tower. He really did try to take that Nexus Tower because right when they left him, his whole breaker was active against 5 members of Astralis right there. So that last item right there, Pain dividends. But again, look at Taxa. He gets a really nice pillar, pushes Stefan away. And then once Vladi dives in and they're safe from him, Taxa will turn his sides onto Nash. He bites him, but he thinks he's finished him off. He thinks he's finished off Nash, so he just lets him go completely. And then the rest of Riddle are like, sorry, Jaxplank, we can't take you with. We're gonna have to let you die. The Nexus Tower does survive. So here we go, rinse and repeat. We have now Astralis pushing the mid lane, and in 1 minute, what did we say initialize? It's gonna go down to that last Elder Dragon.
3rd time's the charm. Yep. I was going to make a reference earlier about, a very English one specifically about Riddle being, St. George, dragon slaying, elder slaying, all of that kind of vibe. But right now, I don't even know where to go. It's a complete mess.
I don't think that the teams know where to go at this point.
It feels like.
I feel like both of them are trying to make sure that they have control of this bot lane river, which means push that mid lane wave, get some vision down there, because again, Astralis do have the HP boost to tank through a bunch of the poke that you do have to throw their way if you're Riddle. So Astralis yet again with the mid lane wave control, trying to shove it in, trying to take control of the river first. Look at this pesky Jax though in the backline. He's either going for that backline. He's stopping the mid lane wave.
That's exactly what he's looking to do. He's got a Hex key, he's trying to find a way in. That's actually a teleport back because they were afraid of where the Jax was. I think he might have been spotted on that mid lane wave. And instead, that means Senkux, the Corki, the critical part of the late game damage, has just gone towards his bot, trying to deal with the Jax. Maybe he can, though. Remember the last time, it has been Jax that's largely come out in those 1v1s on top. But the poke damage is pretty extraordinary at this point.
You have taken one of your main damage dealers, two of your main damage dealers towards the top side of the map. Elder Dragon is up and available for Riddle. And Senkux has no easy way of going back to the fight because he TP'd in base, remember? So I think this was a huge mistake right here, unless they kill the Jax somehow. This was such a huge mistake from Senkux because he cannot join the Elder Dragon fight. He cannot join back in the base because he has no TP to stop the Jax. And Astralis once again are going to get into this river.
3 times we've been to the pit, 3 times we've seen utter scenes in the river.
Jax, I cannot.
He's down there. He's not leaving. He's got GA back. He's got teleport. He could just stay there. He'll be there for as long as he needs to be. He will force the lights to come around. In goes Vlad. He does not pop. The fate sealed. And everything balanced on a knife's edge.
Chrisbeck is also in base. He's trying to roam around in the base.
Elder Dragon's being started. Tax is here. He's got flash. He could look for a steal. This could come down to another split. Oh my days. You can hear the sound of our analysts from the other side crying out in pain at the amount of damage is going down. Elder Dragon still a fight. Taxa into the golden state of the Zhonyas. He's over the wall. Surviving with the subjugate. Nash trying to kill him up for that. It's still going to be an Elder Dragon secured. But what could happen with this one? All the while, Kevo gets Taxa. Down to the Geo goes Jaxplane. Trying to tilt out as best as he can with the counter strike. Ignite into the Abyssal Dive. But there's a Hex Gate and he's away! He's away!
He's alive and well, baby. He's gonna back into his fountain and he's gonna TP back into this fight. It's a 5 versus 3 with only Senkux remaining from Astralis to do any significant damage in this fight. But it's not a fair fight because Elder Dragon is taking on 5 members of Riddle.
I can't tell you whether it's a tragedy or a comedy, but it's sure as hell Shakespearean. Riddle onto the Nexus will win in just over 50 minutes. Are you not entertained?
Woo! This was a game where 5 objectives were started by Astralis. 2 Barons, 3 Elder Dragons. Do you want to know how many of these 5 objectives they got?
0.
0. I feel like a bunch of our problems with Astralis, I think, kind of creeped back. The indecision that we want to do the Dragon, but we don't want to do the Dragon, but we don't want to turn, but we don't know where to be. The TP back in base to stop Jaxplank not being able to join. Dragging Chrisbeck across, like we saw Chrisbeck getting one hit by Jaxplank so many times. I don't know why you're dragging your Senna there. Analysts, I don't know.
Please save us.
Enjoy.
I need to go find an oxygen tank or something. Go, leave us.
Well, good luck with that task, Initialize. Good cast on this game, both of you, because this was one for the ages. Riddle versus Astralis, we prophesized this is going to deliver, and delivered it did.
Now, we tend to head in here and chill out just before the game ends. I don't know whether you heard us screaming in the background. I could also use a bit of an oxygen tank, and I wasn't even casting the game. This is absolutely absurd. We have a lot of things to say about durability patch and in terms of how it affects the early game, but when it leads to games like this, when Okay, not always just the subject of the patch, but when you get games like this, it makes you just so happy to see that it does come down to the execution. It comes down to these teams are actually pretty evenly matched. You don't get even games like this if they're not on the least similar kind of parity. And we set up very early into the champion select and at the end of it that we believe that Riddle could do it off of individual plays, off of hero plays. Got bloody close. We did it.
At the beginning of the game, it seemed like Astralis was losing foot, but as soon as they went on, it seemed like they were learning as they were playing the game, they were adapting to Riddle. Was it enough, though, in your opinion?
I mean, I think just by the fact that Astralis actually got 1 or 2 Drakes early kind of forced Riddle to kind of respond to that as well. And I feel like Riddle could have maybe turned off the notch a bit on the side laning a bit earlier into the game. But obviously Astralis just having the insanely team fight comp, right? And now we see, I mean, it's just so many objectives in this game. Like 3 Elder Drake, I think Troubling said. And it's really hero play from Jaxplank. I think once he realized actually that he has like 4 or 5 items, no one can touch him on the side lane, then I feel like he just completely popped off on the side lane. And obviously got multiple solo kills. He's creating so much pressure. And this is kind of the case as well, where he's kind of forcing Astralis to make bad decisions, and this is just what ended up happening.
And that's really a big point there, forcing them to make those bad decisions, because how many times do you actually get to be in these kind of situations? This is something that we said about a lot of very experienced players at the very top level. We talk of a player like Perks, for instance, one of the real goats of the Western scene, of the League of Legends scene. They have that level of experience to say, this is what we do in this situation. Players like this on this stage in comp matches, you get to see these games a handful of times on this kind of pressure scenario. So to deal with that and to be forced to make those decisions, it makes it so hard to deal with.
And to you, what made Astralis lose this game or Riddle win the game?
I feel like this was a solid Riddle winning the game. I feel like that was. I feel like you don't get to this point if you don't have, even earlier into the game, the Yone forcing packages, getting the big combos, maining that Astralis have to disengage. You don't get even into the late game if Astralis don't force Riddle to get to that point, right? This wasn't a case of, oh, we made one mistake and it's gone back. Even the obvious backdoors were typically counted. This really was hard-fought win.
Yeah, and I just have to completely agree on that as well. I think Astralis, as you were talking about as well, Arshram, they kind of learn throughout the game how they're supposed to play it out. But I think same way goes for Riddle. Like on the other side, I feel like I was kind of criticizing him in the back room, kind of saying, why are you grouping for all these Drakes? You don't really have to. You can just play the side lane. And then once they realized that, it was just a completely different game. It felt like they kind of turned off some sort of magical button, and then it was Astralis just being on the back foot.
Curious enough, you talked to us about the lane control for Astralis and the way they did it in previous games. And in this one, it seemed like that was the SOS to win the game, and they just couldn't do it versus Jaxplank. And he always had a wave to go in. I don't know if we already have the interview ready for us. There we go. It's going to be Nash. Welcome. Well, are you holding the webcam? Are you that excited? How are you doing, my man?
I don't have a webcam, so I'm on my phone right now. It's a bit scuffed, but yeah, that's
it's good. It's interactive with us.
It's better than nothing, right? So yeah.
You cannot keep getting away with this. The way you guys are playing, your team is massive. But you did get nervous during the game, didn't you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the fact that it went on for so long and yeah, everything, all the objectives, etc. It's hard team fights. Fighting Corki with Hexol, completely impossible, right? So yeah, fortunately we had super top and we didn't int that much in mid game, so we managed to pull it out somehow.
Okay,
that was nice.
So you were talking about, oh, it's impossible to fight here. What do we do? We've talked a lot on the desk just before you came and joined us about the teams kind of learning as the game goes on. And honestly, looking the way you play, it seems like you definitely think about the setup to a lot of plays. What was going through your head when it was like, look, we're not winning these grouped up fights? How did you problem solve this game?
I mean, so we have Yone and Jax, right? So we for sure are going to win if we can get a 1-3-1 scenario without them forcing too hard on the global objectives. But then they got the Hexolds, etc. And then we tried a few fights, particularly on the third Drake, where we tried to team fight it, but it was just impossible. Like 2 long range on Corki and Senna, and then 2 tanky frontline with both Ornn, TK, and the Trundle. So yeah, I think it was just very hard. I don't think the rail pick was optimal now looking in hindsight, but yeah, we just had to adapt and figured out that the team fights weren't working out for us. So then, yeah, just had to hope that Super Top could do some magic on the sideline, which it did.
Nash, I mean, I just have to ask you because we don't get games like this all the time, right? What was the communication like in the final 5 minutes of the fight? Like, you have so many objectives, the Elder going down. We thought the game was going to end for like 50 minutes straight, but it didn't. How was the communication in the last couple of minutes in that one?
I mean, it was complete chaos, to be honest. We were a bit hesitant with what we were supposed to do, but once Jax got his items and stuff like this, we just knew that we had to win through side lane. We were talking permanently about putting the Ziggs through the portals and just trying to backdoor, because at this point he's going to one-shot all the turrets and the Nexus. So we were really looking for that, but the opportunity never arose. And then, yeah, I don't know, it was really hard. But then we decided that we're just going to hope that he can do some magic on the side lane like he did. And then, yeah, took it from there. I'm honestly still amazed that we managed to win somehow. Crazy.
Regardless of the game, you guys always pull it off in the end with this sort of composition. The big question to wrap it up is, are you guys able to crack the case versus JDXL on the next matchup when you guys face each other?
I mean, hopefully. I for sure have faith in our team, and we'll see their next game, right? Or the game after. So we'll see then. I think they could drop a game then as well. But yeah, I think our team is doing well. We just have to figure out our drafts a bit. Don't think Rel was optimal here. Maybe we could do some other picks than Jax as well. But yeah, I think we'll have a good chance for sure if we manage to figure out our drafts and keep working hard.
Let's see what happens. Sure. Thank you so much for the interview. It was an awesome game to see and rewatch as we go forward during this split. And I'll see you soon. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
There you go. He's somewhere in the sky. He's somewhere in the sky. He is
flanking us. He's flanking us on Rel.
Well, yet again. And there you go. That is a lot coming in from Nash. They were afraid of what was happening versus Astralis. Obviously,
it's really hard not to be.
Yeah, Astralis was setting up the team fights constantly and seemed like Riddle couldn't get to the fights early enough.
Yeah, and you know, we were pretty on top of that in terms of what we were thinking about it too. Saying, look, if this gets to 5v5s, it's kind of rough. You've got to try and do something just before the fight sets up. And they didn't really get that timing right. They weren't there early enough to control the space and then pick people off in rotation. And they didn't necessarily have the vision control when they had that side lane pressure to start forcing a lot of these skirmishy fights before that 5v5 really came to it. I know you were talking a lot about how actually Riddle didn't use that side lane pressure between Dragons pretty well in the mid game.
Yeah, I mean, that was just a big one for me, right? I felt like that's where it kind of made the game kind of easy for Astralis to play through these Drakes, because let's face it, between those, as you mentioned, feels like nothing really was happening. They were not setting up the silence properly. Jaxmark was not pressuring at all, actually, and he was not getting. Obviously, you talked as well, Namir, that he was kind of a victim of a lot of ganks in this side lane, and he was not bringing Stefan onto that side lane as well. When you have a Jax that is that strong, that was what's concerning to me. But yeah, I mean, they picked it up. So I mean,
they learned, they improvised, they adapted.
It's about learning. And it's Astralis. We talked about a team that constantly learns, and we're going to learn a little bit more with Vendetta on the interview that is with us right now. Welcome back. I mean, this game.
Fiona team.
What?
Hello?
Hello? Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
It was a tough game. It was a wonderful game to spectate from the viewer's point of view, but as a coach looking into your team, going through so much, how did it feel to begin? Because it seemed like the team was adapting, was learning, and was doing a pretty good job versus Riddle. What was your answer through this composition to the Jax late game?
It's always to deal with the Jax late game when you get full item builds and the inhibs are open. I think that we did a good job of getting leads that we wanted Drakes, and we needed to open the map a little bit more instead of trying to siege the Baron. And I think that was our big mistake.
Well,
it just keeps on happening, man.
It is a fast answer, concisive, and we know they needed to open the map a little bit more before they went for that Baron. Man, I'm so smooth with this nowadays.
Yeah. See, that's where Nash has gone. That's where he's gone. He's gone to
setting up. He's setting up. Now he knows what
we thought he was flanking us. No.
It was like, he gave the answer like, oh, that is actually a good answer. So team, and he go into the team. But now he's back with us. He provided the answer to the team, and now he's back with us. It's normal, don't worry. But we got the entire answer, and I know Naimara wants to talk to you.
One thing which is a little bit of a different question, but obviously you've come into this team in this split, coaching staff change. One of the players that we watched quite heavily during spring was Carlson in that top side. And one of the things we knew was good individual player, good on a 1v1 basis, but lacked some of the skills to maybe play on weak side and play the more complex side of a top laner's role. In this game, I thought he did pretty well. So I'd love to get your opinion on how Carlson has evolved this split.
Yeah. Carson is a great talent, and he has been improving a lot. We've also been working with the C team as well. He's getting some practice in. We've been, learning how to play the mid game a lot from them as well, and I think that has helped him a great deal. Obviously, I also have been working with him, and I think he's making huge improvements. I'm very happy with how Kyle is.
I mean, I would say this team is still going for the stars. Memes aside, we're always talking about Astralis and the stars. You guys still have a long way to go, but you guys are looking solid as you go along in this summer split. Let's see how you end up. Thank you so much for the interview, Vineta, and I'll see you soon. Good luck with Astralis, man. Have a nice one.
Thank you.
I mean, I'm really happy with the way Astralis are playing. There's nothing we can
No, there is no
say,
shame in losing this.
Yeah. No,
there's
it
no
was
shame in
an
losing.
awesome game.
It's like, I mean, the other question I could have potentially asked there, which I was thinking is, like, how do you prepare for that late game? You can't realistically. It's really difficult, and even with that, it's like it's when push comes to shove, and if you ever find yourself in a situation, which I hope you don't, where like you are really stressed out, the saying goes, you don't end up being a hero, you fall back on your lowest level of training. And that kind of ends up happening in these late game scenarios, where actually it comes down to just, what are your fundamentals like? How do you just understand your champion, the enemy champions? You have to do a lot of problem solving on the fly. And I felt like that actually showed up pretty good for both teams in this. This isn't a bad reflection on either team for me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree with you. I think one aspect as well is we talked with Taxer. We had an interview with him in the pre-game show. I think not in the pre-game, but we were seeing it in the broadcast, and he was mentioning a lot about how the mental has been improving a lot for the team. And this just goes to show in a game like this where there are so many things going wrong. The plan is kind of getting out the window, and still being able to keep stable. I think that's the biggest difference for me and as well as this split. And I mean, this just shows that, as you mentioned, it's no shame in losing this one.
And at the beginning of the day, we had 3 teams tied up in second place. Let's look how they are right now, because finally we see someone ungluing themselves from that second spot, with Riddle getting that second one. Bifrost still have an opportunity today to get back in on the horse of the second spot of the standings. I mean, we are constantly saying we're early in the split. No, we're not.
No, we're not anymore.
It is week 4. Now it's solidifying. If you want to get the playoffs, this is the time. And I think this victory for Riddle are putting them in such a good position.
Now suddenly you're at a point where, even if JDXL lose the next game, actually that's bumping Dusty closer up to you at that point. If they do win, it opens up that gap. This, like Group A, as Riddle like to call it, they're not even allowed to win Group B now. You've gone into the next level of play. Everything is so close on that left-hand side of the table in that top 5.